This is Epic Book Recaps, a podcast that offers complimentary audio summaries of influential non-fiction books, making learning a smarter experience. Same as ever. Stop trying to predict the future. Have you encountered predictions about what will happen in 6 months, a year, or 5 years? Probably many. But have you seen any that were true in the end? Probably not. Morgan Housel has cracked the code of predictions. Instead of trying to predict the ever-changing future based on our unstable present, he offers a different way. What if we analyze what never changes instead? This way, we can paint a far more accurate picture of our future as humanity. Stable behaviors and patterns can give us a preview of our future. This idea appeared to Housel once he heard an almost anecdotal story of his friend's conversation with Warren Buffett, an American billionaire known for his successful ventures. In 2009, the global economy was in bad shape. "How can we ever recover from this?" Jim asked. Warren simply said, "Do you know what was the best-selling candy bar in 1962? Snickers. Do you know what the best-selling candy bar is today? Snickers." Since then, Housel has tracked other Snickers-like examples of how many things stay surprisingly the same. Discover what remains the same as ever and better understand how to see what's coming. Future lies. Do you know the probability of the US ceasing to exist? During the Battle of Long Island, it was nearing 100%. George Washington's army narrowly escaped defeat during the American Revolutionary War. How did they do it? The wind was blowing in an unfavorable direction for the British fleet. Could anyone predict something as unexpected as the wind? No, but humans keep trying to calculate the unpredictable century after century. If we focus only on the foreseeable risks, we'll never be prepared for the unseen. Indeed, predicting specific events and outcomes is nearly impossible due to the myriad of factors involved. The most impactful moments in American history, such as the Great Depression, 9/11s, or even the recent COVID-19 pandemic, arose out of the blue. They emerged from the blind spots we could not possibly see. Risk is what's left over after you think you've thought of everything. Yet despite that, humans seek certainty in our inherently uncertain world. We want to know exactly what's coming. We listen to countless experts, each giving their specific forecasts. Instead of trying to predict the surprises, why not prepare for them? California can serve as an excellent example. It knows a major earthquake will happen sooner or later. No one can predict when, so instead, the state invests in the readiness of its buildings and emergency crews for when it does. There is one more factor that clouds our judgment here: the news. Just consider the difference. Negative news is immediate and captivating. It calls for attention and overwhelms us. Good news compounds and takes time. It is not as urgent or visible. Progress happens over time, yet we never notice it due to the urgent negative news overshadowing the slow yet positive developments. Constructing a business can take dozens of years, while destruction can happen in a matter of days. Failures indeed attract our attention. Yet growth remains more powerful in moving progress forward, even if it's unnoticeable. Why is everyone happier than you? Do you entertain the idea that in the past, people were happier? The cost of housing was lower, wages were higher, and prices were lower. The list goes on and on. The key sentiment remains: it was better then. Take the 50s in America, for example, and the generation of so-called baby boomers. The country enjoyed an ever-rising economy and 10 years of full employment, while entire families of 4 could survive on a working day's wage. It's hard not to see this decade as a dream come true. However, the numbers reveal quite a different picture. The home ownership rate and average home size were lower than today. At the same time, the amount of money spent on food and the workplace death rate was 2 to 3 times higher. After the Great Depression and the Second World War, many Americans found financial stability that was elusive before. No, they weren't earning much more than us today or living better lives. Yet, everyone was living at the relatively same level of wealth. The economic gains went to the formerly poorest members of society, closing the wealth gap. Nowadays, we're constantly exposed to the lives of people much richer than us. We see them in the news and follow them on Instagram. Suddenly, our lives don't feel as good in comparison to theirs. Seeing others' wealth inflates our expectations and makes us unhappy with our reality. That is why we keep comparing our times to the 50s. Despite the rising standard of life, we never appreciate it due to greater expectations. To feel happy with what you already have, keep your expectations in check. But what can we do to ground ourselves in reality? Remember that we don't see what is happening behind closed doors. In particular, social media is where we don't communicate but perform for one another, like actors on a theatre stage. Most people won't reveal their suffering, problems, or insecurities. That's why such platforms are a perfect occasion for self-promotion. You can masterfully advertise your skills and hide your flaws. We only see a fraction of reality at any given time. In the end, we're left with a painful awareness of our problems, but unaware of the struggles of others. Stories matter more than you imagine. You might think that numbers, statistics, and calculations drive our world. That's not entirely true. Stories are the powerhouses that affect us the most. Whoever tells a good story can easily get people's attention. A scientist can devise a genius theory without the skill to communicate its significance to others. At the same time, Morgan Freeman can read a grocery list and invoke people's deepest emotions. Similarly, Charles Darwin wasn't the first to discover evolution. He just wrote a compelling book about it. When writing A Brief History of Time, Stephen Hawking realized every formula he included would cut the book's sales. People didn't want a lecture, but a good story. Great storytellers can get ahead in life, even if they don't have the correct answers. So, what should a good story do? Here are 4 must-have elements. Evoke emotions in people by touching something deeply personal in them. Connect the dots in their minds in a way they've never seen before. Call attention to topics people have previously ignored and provoke them to act. Bring people together despite diverse backgrounds and opinions. The most powerful stories usually contain one phrase or sentence that produces the most impact. Consider Martin Luther King's famous speech. On that fateful morning of August 28, 1963, Luther King's appearance at the Lincoln Memorial didn't go as expected. He read from a speech draft until the gospel singer Mahalia Jackson shouted, "Tell them about the dream, Martin." He then put the draft aside and after a few seconds of pause, looked up at the sky. He said, "I have a dream." We often ignore people with good ideas simply because they're inarticulate while worshipping those who don't bring anything new but are good at marketing themselves. So the next time you read something, ask yourself, will I care about this a year from now? Deep knowledge is often hidden more in books than in blasting headlines in the newspapers. Remember, newspapers give you short insights, while books can help you develop entire thinking patterns. Keep your information balance in check. Crazy is normal. Making sense of the world where everything changes within a second is hard. Every decade has unique challenges and benefits. We have to accept that crazy is normal. What's rational and understandable to one person is crazy to another. What seems like the biggest catastrophe can be a blessing in disguise. Let's take recessions as an example. Everyone fears them as a predictor of a new crisis, an economy falling apart. However, an economist, Hyman Minsky, has discovered quite the opposite idea. He studied the nature of economies and their boom and bust nature. In his view, eradicating recessions was an awful idea. Minsky explains it not with numbers, but with the nature of human psychology. When everything is good, people get optimistic. As they are happier, they go into debt. And when they do that, the economy becomes unstable. In such a way, the absence of recessions causes the subsequent recessions to happen. Due to human nature, we can never eradicate them. The same goes for an overall sense of stability. In hindsight, it's destabilizing. When things accumulate, they backfire unexpectedly. So where is that balance between optimistic and delusional? We have to allow pessimism and optimism to coexist. While pessimism grounds us, optimism helps us survive and progress. Ironically enough, the phrase American Dream appeared during the worst period of America's history, the Great Depression. Despite the desperate conditions, the idea quickly became popular as it gave the optimistic hope people needed to keep going. The best financial plan is to save like a pessimist and invest like an optimist. If we want to adjust to this crazy reality, we must become rational optimists. It means acknowledging history's despair and failures, while remaining optimistic that they won't prevent us from progressing. Plan for the worst and hope for the best. Did you know The psychologist Carl Jung coined the term enantiodromia. It means that an excess of something always gives rise to its opposite. It happens in all spheres of life: investments, nature, relationships, if we look closely enough. Good things take time. Progress is slow, but steady. However, greedy human nature craves fast and significant gains. We tend to speed up the process beyond what we can handle. The story of Starbucks serves as a warning. In 1994, Starbucks had a little more than 400 stores. Craving immense growth, they opened 625 stores in 1 year, and then hit thousands of stores yearly in the 2000s. Instead of constant development, they oversaturated the market with their product. During the crisis of 2008, they were forced to close thousands of stores, causing their stock to fall by over 70%. Even in business, it requires patience to allow and not force growth. Great results require perseverance and time. In the same way, trying to be perfect will produce backward results. Even for the economy, some inefficiency is always good. We're humans, not machines. We can't be efficient at any given moment. Allowing our minds to wander and waste this precious time can be innovators' greatest tool. Excellent ideas come to them when they are free to ponder and reflect. A Stanford study suggests that walking dramatically improves our creativity. That's when we give our minds some rest. When space frees up, we can be curious again, brainstorm, and see connections in an entirely new way. The more perfect we become, the more vulnerable we are to the imperfections of others. We become close-minded and reactionary to differences in lifestyle and opinions, inefficiencies and miscommunications. We can strive for the best, but it's better to remain somewhat imperfect in our unique ways of being. Patience and tolerance will help us plan long-term despite the world's unpredictability. Indeed, short runs produce quick results. But can we make hundreds of short runs with the same intensity? Planning long-term is akin to running a marathon, a collection of short runs. No, we can't calculate all the nonsense happening over the next 10 years. But we can change our mindset and how we approach such disruptive events. Being patient rather than stubborn and empathetic rather than intolerant will help you succeed, no matter what obstacles you face. Things around us constantly change. Technology and medical advancements, the political scene, even languages and world borders. Yet when you look closely enough, you'll notice how much never changes. People suffer from fear, jealousy, and greed, driven by their tribal instincts. Humanity remains overconfident and short-sighted. Everyone is looking for happiness and certainty. Markets recover and recessions pass. We rebuild despite the scars we all carry. Same as ever. Do this. Attempt to analyze this idea. What stays the same for you despite time moving forward? Read more history books to uncover the patterns that repeat throughout time. When reading the news, notice the proportion of good and bad news. Analyze how each of them affects you.